Hypixel, known to millions as the most popular Minecraft server in the game's history, with over 14 million unique users registered and a regular count of more than 100,000 daily players. And, as of December 2018, the creators of one of the most anticipated voxel games of all time, the announcement trailer of which having racked up more than 50 million views as of my writing this. The game itself has, reportedly, received millions of dollars in funding from corporations as high-profile as Riot Games. Yes, the League of Legends Riot Games. This adventure sandbox block game is known to millions as,
Hytale!
Hytale.
Hytale.
Hytale, everyone.
Well, it's called Hytale.
Thank you very much, assortment of various renowned online personalities. Hytale. The game is called Hytale. All of those clips were taken from various reactions to Hytale's announcement trailer, way back in December of 2018. A trailer which caused, to put it simply, a hype explosion. Such a boom of excitement is the topic of today's video essay. Without further ado, I give you Hytale's YouTube History Part 1. The Hype Explosion. When looking at Hytale through a community perspective, I believe it's crucial to recognize how impactful and far-reaching its announcement trailer was and, in many ways, still is. This video blew developer expectations completely out of the water. Where Hypixel Studios expected thousands, perhaps hundreds of thousands of views, they received millions in its first week. This far-reaching excitement was perhaps best epitomized and infectiously spread by the dozens of trailer reactions from very notable figures within the online gaming space. While most reactions were that of impression and positivity, a few rare creators either took it straight to pure, unadulterated obsession.
Just inject this game directly into my veins, oh my god.
Or, in a few very rare cases, skepticism.
You know, the worst thing about this is, like, what if it's actually good?
Come on, Asmongold, get with the bandwagon! Consensus makes correctness, and no, I will not be taking criticism on my rationale. All joking aside, it's clear that these heavy-hitting reaction videos help circulate initial excitement for Hytale. With figures as large as Dan TDM and Captain Sparkles sharing to their audience how incredible this game looked, especially in comparison to their platform's main focus of Minecraft, it's no wonder that this announcement trailer did as well as it did. That's not to pin all of its success on monolithic content creators, however. There was plenty of excitement and buzz generated by this trailer that was spread through the grassroots of online gaming communities. But what was so intrinsically captivating about this announcement trailer? Well, here to help me out on this topic are ThirtyVirus and Codiak, two gaming content creators who were especially prominent in the Hytale space as it grew in the months following the trailer's release. Don't worry, I'll give a lot more information on these guys, and that period, later in the video.
So I think, honestly, we all know that Minecraft is a massive game, and that whole block genre is huge. It's exploded in the last decade and change, and I think what Hytale represents is the idea that you can take the block-based game and elevate it. I have been not shy about my dislike for Minecraft. I think it's a very basic game. I think it's fun, and I think the community drives the game, but I think the game itself is lacking, and I think that's what Hytale offers people. It offers them that next step, that evolution of a concept that people absolutely love. Backed by a strong team that's known in the Minecraft space, now backed by a lot of money and a lot of technical support. I mean, there are a lot of pieces in place for Hytale to be good, except we don't know about the game itself. So there is the hope that it's going to be good, and I think that's what initially got people so hyped about it. But now, and I'm sure we're going to talk about this, we're in that lull where who knows what's going on? Who knows what the next thing is? Who knows what the systems are? Because that's honestly what's going to determine if Hytale is good or not.
Hytale in the pre-release community was a unique situation because Minecraft was on a downtrend at that time. It was not very popular. People were starting to switch to other games like Fortnite, especially back then. So Hytale was like this beacon of hope that all these people would have a place to go that was better, and people were frustrated with the direction of Minecraft.
In addition to the great insight these guys provided, I'd strongly recommend watching ISH13C's video, Why the Hytale Trailer is So Effective. It's a masterfully done video, fully analyzing the advertising and musical strengths of a masterful trailer, and it still holds up as one of my personal favorite Hytale videos to this day. His thesis is that the Hytale announcement trailer could be categorized into a progression of sections that highlight what the game has to offer. I'd also like to note that, at the time, Hytale was expected to release relatively soon. A beta sign-up was available to everyone, and back then, there was no reason to believe that the game wouldn't release later in the year. It was also at this time that the r/HytaleInfo subreddit was created by fans in anticipation, and started to gain notable traction. But as weeks after the trailer turned into months, the effects of this hype boom naturally died down. People who took a more casual interest in Hytale shifted their sights towards other projects and news, while a smaller, more dedicated community began to concentrate. I'd like to be clear though, at this point, the Hytale community was still relatively large, especially when compared to its much smaller size at certain points down the road, especially as of my writing this in April 2021. Today, all that are left are the nerds. Not me, though. I'm a chick magnet. Going back to talking about the months following the initial Hytale boom, several creators were able to become community figures during this period. The aforementioned ThirtyVirus and Codiak, the latter of which ran the then called Game Gurus channel, now called Legacy Gaming, both come to mind. These guys held a lot of prominence within the community at the time, and in some ways still do to this day. For a lot of people, myself included, videos from people such as ThirtyVirus and Codiak were primary sources of exposure to Hytale information and discussion. Both have shifted their main sites away from Hytale for the time being, but what kinds of content did these guys make? What made said content so prominent in the community?
I think it was from the perspective of, like, I knew the staff was watching my content. After like 3 or 4 videos, it was like, oh, they're listening to me. Like, I've heard back from like people like Simon at the time, and I was like, okay. So like a lot of my content was suggestions based. It's like, what if Hytale had a sneaking system? What if it had an infinitely generating world in all axes, not just X and Z, but also Y, allowing planets to be like a full sphere and like affecting gravity in weird ways. I remember that was a big aspect back in the day with Hytale videos. It was just like, how can I take all of my ideas, package them up neatly, and send it to the admins?
Right.
Well, not admins, the developers.
Right.
I would say that probably sum up my content as Bedwars commentaries with Hytale stuff thrown on top of it. I think I was in the right place at the right time. Like, I'd always had the upload schedule to just pump videos out. But I think it's a similar case with Skyblock, where it was just like the correct topic. It's what people were watching. I was providing that content, and I guess the algorithm took care of the rest. I don't think there was anything inherently better about my content back then. Maybe my ideas, I would like to think, were pretty good. Yeah, I was definitely, like I said, there just weren't that many people in the pre-release Hytale community in terms of creators back then. So like, even though I was by no means an expert on coding, I was that guy that could code. So I guess I just kind of was put in that position.
I think it comes back to a lot like how we run our channel, right? And we, just like you mentioned, we're interested in Hytale as a much more realistic 2019, 2020 vision than something that's going to take us now into 2022 potentially. Release date skeptics aside, I think that you can only sustain hype for so long. And we've never been, myself and Livid, have never been the types of people that want to hang on one concept for too long. We believe that we have to catch a lot of fish, we have to cast a wide net. And that means moving from games. It means changing up our rhythm, changing up our concepts. But I think you could tell, and I know a lot of people in the Hytale community have kind of forgotten about us, and that's totally fine. I mean, we'll be back there. I'm not worried about that. But we were all in. Like you mentioned, the survey videos was a lot of work, compiling data, things like that. The roundtables, there's an execution factor there, taking content creators, creating all of the whole thing so that it felt like a polished product, which is something that we pride ourselves in.
Seriously, Hytale roundtables were some of the coolest community events during that period. To be able to tune into a live stream of experienced and charismatic gaming content creators discussing this awesome upcoming video game, all while holding your own discussions with your fellow eager fans in the chat, there was nothing like it. Other notable Hytale content creators at the time included the likes of Hytale News and Quebec Corner. While the latter might have been a seedling at this point, keep an eye on him. He'd go on to eventually cultivate what could be very fairly considered to be the most prominent Hytale channel as of my writing this. We'll talk more about him in the next video essay in this series. As spring went by, even with its weekly official Hytale blog posts, it became more and more evident to the community that Hytale probably wasn't going to release during the late spring, as many people, myself included, had initially thought. Then, in May of 2019, came what was perhaps the most impactful occurrence for the community since the announcement trailer. Since it took the form of a blog post, I'll read an excerpt. The massive response to Hytale's announcement has changed things for us. It's opened up a huge number of opportunities, particularly when it comes to things like hiring and potential partnerships. Before we announced Hytale, we were receiving a slow trickle of job applications, and the industry primarily knew us as modders, if they knew us at all. Now all of that has changed, and all of it helps us improve our decision making and ultimately make the game better. The scale of the response has also presented challenges. We've had a lot of work to do, from improving our development pipeline to processing thousands of job applications, keeping the community supplied with new screenshots and info, and listening to feedback and suggestions. All of this takes time, and it has made it harder to set a fixed timeline for Hytale's release. Later on in the blog post, they address the future of the Hytale blog. The other thing we wanted to address today is the Hytale blog itself. Since January, we've been using it to show off our work, introduce members of our development team, and go deeper on elements of Hytale that we only briefly touched on in the announcement. It's been really rewarding for us to finally be able to reveal the fruits of our labor, and being able to provide a steady stream of screenshots, art, and video clips to our community is important to us. That said, we do need to make sure that the blog doesn't distract from the much more important work of developing the game. We've shown a lot over the last couple of months, and so, for the next period in the game's development, we're going to slow our pace and focus on delivering less frequent but more substantial updates. Working to a weekly schedule has made it harder to cover bigger topics, so we're hoping that slowing down will allow us to produce more detailed articles about key game features. This blog post, as well as every Hytale blog post, are available to read on www.hytale.com. So, Hypixel Studios announces that they'll slow down blog posts to direct their time and energy towards developing an even better game in response to the hype boom. They even promise to occasionally share more intensive information about the game from time to time. How did this play out? Well, what followed was an informational drought. Up until the summer of 2019, the developers were incredibly engaged with the Hytale community, beyond just blog posts. As noted in my previous video on Hytale fan art, the developers were, and still are, very attentive and vocally appreciative of fan art, videos, and other expressions of fan excitement. The summer of 2019, however, brought something of a halt to this developer community interaction. Sure, it still existed, but it felt minimized and paled in comparison to their prior engagement.
I think that was just really important for the developers that were clearly getting their sea legs. And for anybody that doesn't know that expression, basically means just getting like your feet under you, right? They were being acquired by Riot. That's going to take a ton of attention away from the game development. There's a lot of business stuff going on. They're hiring people like crazy. There's so many pieces to the puzzle that I think the last thing that was being missed was, okay, tell the community what's going on. We know that there are things happening. The game is moving forward, but we're stuck in this rut where we're not seeing anything, and you clearly have this community of voracious content creators that are making videos about anything they could get their hands on. And I think it was a good move for them to really level set and kind of reset the expectations of the community. That was really important for that turning the page and getting to that next phase of development where it's like, okay, we're going to knuckle down and we're going to develop this game now. Communication is going to be a little sparse, but that's just the way it is. And I think that was the right move.
For me, at least, it was a great transition period into Skyblock. So I personally didn't suffer much from that drought because something else took my attention away for about a year. But everybody else, yeah, I could see how that was stressful for a lot of creators back then. You know, some didn't survive, some moved on to other projects. Yeah, I feel like that was a calculated move. They very well are capable of developing new stuff and showing it off, but they decided not to because they, I think, wanted to control the hype beast. They wanted to keep people's expectations, you know, in a realistic place. And I think, honestly, it was a good thing for the game. But what was not anticipated was the return of Minecraft as a mainstream thing. So that I see as the biggest threat to Hytale right now. Like I said, a lot of my old videos were suggestions and things that I think would have made the game better. And I think they took a lot of that to heart, not just with me, but with the whole community. And they went back to the drawing board, I think, because they wanted to release the perfect game, which is a good thing because when it finally does come out, it will, you know, it'll be groundbreaking. But I guess the downside of that was that we got that massive drought in content.
July and August each brought their own blog post, with the former even including a development update and a fan art showcase, but aside from that, there didn't seem to be much information from the devs beyond the very occasional screenshot or meme. Tensions were also present in the community at this point. Many criticized Hypixel Studios for what they viewed as a lack of proper communication, while others argued that the studio had never promised a defined standard for their rate of shared information. There were a few times in which Noxie, the CEO of Hypixel Studios, touched on this lack of communication, promising information soon, but these promises never seemed to be delivered upon. One could consider this point to be the dark age of the Hytale community. But with every dark age comes a renaissance, and the Hytale community was no exception. In November of 2019, four different blog posts were released on the same day, and thus began the beginning of what I view as Hytale's Renaissance period. But that's a topic for the next part in this series. I'd like to give a massive thank you to both ThirtyVirus and Codiak for agreeing to be interviewed for this video. I must admit, it was pretty surreal to talk to these guys who I viewed and still view as such prominent community figures. And both 30 and Codiak continue to make really high quality content to this day. 30virus' YouTube channel focuses largely on Hypixel Skyblock at the moment, and Codiak now works in conjunction with The Livid Lion, another awesome gaming video creator, for their shared gaming variety channel Legacy Gaming. Everybody just mentioned also have Twitters and Discord servers, which I'll link in the description. Jumping towards the present, I also asked, as I always try to when I interview Hytale content creators, if 30virus and Codiak had anything they wanted to say to the developers or community.
I think the developers should release the game sooner rather than later. I think that the idea of the game needs to be perfect. It needs to be like completely done. It's not a reasonable goal. We live in a society now where games get released and then they get updated. It's not like back in the old days when you released, like, let's say a DS game and you can't fix a bug without altering the cartridge itself.
I was just gonna say, I think it's been pretty good. I think the you know, guys and girls that are part of the Hytale community have done a nice job keeping the positive stuff going. But you know, you go on Reddit, you see some stuff, you just see the angsty stuff, and the angsty stuff is just dangerous. You just got to watch it, and you just, you know, as community leaders, people that are really invested in the game, you have to just be careful and address those things in a respectful way. Like we do it on as many comments as we can in our videos. You know, just about any sort of angsty negative stuff. We're like, okay, we hear you, but like, you're not adding anything positive to the world by doing this. You're making other people upset. You're cutting them down, and nobody wants that. Again, there's so much more to content creation and game development and game releases than those negative moments, right? You know, it's those positive moments that we want to focus on as a community. and eventually get to the point where we're playing a game that we love. That is at the core of it all. Let's play a game that we love, and let's just remember that that's the end game, not the clout, not the, nonsense, not the memes. It's about playing games that we love.
Absolutely. Life is too short to focus on the negative sides of communities.
Amen.
Thank you very much for watching. This has been Ethos, and I hope this video bettered your day.